कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुष्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं वाल्मीकिर्मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं कौ नयाति पराङ्गतिं यत्पिबं सततं रामचरितामृतासागरम् अदृप्तस्तं मुनिं वन्दे प्राचेतसमकल्मषम् गोष्पदीकृतवारासं मसकीकृतराक्षसं रामायणमहामाला रत्नं वन्दे अनिलात्मजम् अञ्जनानन्दनं वीरं जानकीशोकनाशनं कपीसमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम् आमिषीकृतमार्ताण्डं गोष्पदीकृतसागरं तृणीकृतदशग्रीवम् आञ्जनेयं नमाम्यहम् उल्लङ्घ्य सिन्धोः यस्तोकवह्निं जनकात्मजायाः आदाय तेनेव ददाह लङ्कां नमामि तं प्राञ्जलिराञ्जनेयम् आञ्जनेयमतिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमानन्दनम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि यः कर्णाञ्जलिसम्पुटैः हरः सम्यक् पिबत्यादरात् वाल्मीकिर्वदनारविन्दगलितं रामायणाख्यं मधुः जन्मव्याधिजराविपत्तिमरणैः अत्यन्तसोपद्रवं संसारसह विहाय गच्छति पुमान् विष्णोर्पदं शाश्वतम् तदुपगतसमाससन्धियोगं सममधुरोपनतार्धवाक्यबद्धं रघुवरचरितं मुनिप्रणीतं दशशिरसश्च वदं निशामयध्वं वाल्मीकिगिरिसम्भूतानां रामसागरगामिनी पुनातु भुवनं पुण्यात् रामायणं महानदी वेदवेदे परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजं वेदः प्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना वैदेही सहितं सुरुद्रमुतले हैमे महामण्डपे मध्ये पुष्पकमासने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम् अग्रे वाचयति प्रभञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परं वाक्यान्तं भरताद्भिः परिवृतं रामं भजे श्यामलं वामे भूमिसुता पुरश्च हनुमान् पश्चात् सुमित्रासुतः शत्रुघ्नो भरतश्च पार्श्वदलयोः वायव्यादिकोणेषु च सुग्रीवश्च विभीषणश्च युवराट् तारासुतो जाम्बवान् मध्ये नीलसरोजकोमलरुचिं रामं भजे श्यामलं माता रामो मत्पिता रामो भ्राता रामो मत्सखा राघवेशः सर्वस्वं मे रामचन्द्रो दयाळुः नन्यदेवं नैव जाने न जाने साकेते शरदिन्दुकुन्दधवळे सवदे महामण्डपे पर्यस्ता अगरधूपदीपललिते कर्पूरदीपोज्ज्वले सुग्रीवाङ्गदजाम्बवत्परिवृतं सौमित्रिणा सेवितं लीलामानुषविग्रहं रघुवरं रामं भजे श्यामलं मेघश्यामं महाबाहुं स्थिरसत्त्वं दृढव्रतं कदा द्राक्ष्यामहे रामं जगतः शोकनाशनं जयत्यतिबलो रामो लक्ष्मणश्च महाबलः राजा जयति सुग्रीवा राघवेण अभिपालितः दासोऽहं कौसलेन्द्रस्य रामस्य क्लिष्टकर्मणः हनुमान् शत्रुसैन्यानां निहन्तां मारुतात्मजः रावणसहस्रं मे युद्धे प्रतिबलं भवेत् शिलाभिस्तु प्रहत्तारपादपैश्च सहस्रशः अर्धयित्वा पुरीं लङ्काम् अभिवाद्यश्च मैथिलीं समृद्धार्दो गमिष्यामि विशतां सर्वराक्षसां धर्मात्मा सत्यसन्धश्च रामो दासरिर्यदि पौरुषे च अप्रतिद्वन्द्वशरयेन जहि रावणीं नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामे नमस्ते सरस्वते देवगौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे तपस्वाध्याय निरतां तपस्विं वाग्विदां वरं नारद परिपप्रच्छ वाल्मीकिर्मुनिपुङ्गवम् ओम रामाय नमः। हरे कृष्ण। Last week we have seen the birth of Lord Sri Ramachandra. He was born under Punarvasu Nakshatra when Aditi was the presiding star of the day, under Karkataka Lagna when the day was progressing and 5 planets were in the highest positions. Lord Ramachandra was born, and the next day early in the morning under Pisces Bharata was born in Pushyami Nakshatra. And in the later part of the day, in the afternoon, Lakshmana and Shatrughna were born. And after they were born, they were well educated in all the Vedas, Vedangas, the 6 ancillary parts of the Vedas, and subsequent studies. And in Dhanurveda, Dasaratha himself became a teacher. He also taught them, even though it is understood, because in future Vishwamitra states that your father and myself are the teachers for you. So Dasaratha also might have taught Dhanurveda to Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. And it is said in Ramayana, during their childhood, that Rama and Lakshmana always used to stick together. Without Lakshmana, Rama would not eat food. It is stated just like that. That Rama would not take even food or not even sleeps without Lakshmana. Similarly, the younger brother Lakshmana is very proud of his world-charming brother. So he is always captivated by his charming beauty and nonchalant attitude and his truthfulness and valor. So whenever Rama climbs a horse or an elephant or a chariot, Lakshmana would run behind and hand over the bow and the quiver to his brother. So Lakshmana followed his brother like a shadow since childhood. Similarly, Bharata showed the same kind of affection to Shatrugna. And actually, after 11 days of their birth, the Jatakarma, which is naming ceremony of the 4 children, took place, and Vasishtha named the 4 children, the 4 divine kids of Dasaratha. Vasishtha named Ramachandra as Ramayati iti Ramaha. Said he gives happiness to the entire world. That's why he is called Rama. Ramayati iti Ramaha. And what is the name? Why did he give Lakshmana the word Lakshmana, the name Lakshmana? He said he has the Lakshmi Kainkarya. That means his Lakshmi is the Kainkarya. That means the servant attitude. The service is his Lakshmi. That is why he is called Lakshmivan Lakshmana. And Bharata, actually the second one was Bharata. He was named Bharata because Vibhakti iti Bharataha, one who bears the burden is Bharata. And true to his name, he bore the burden of kingdom for 14 years. He bore the burden of the blame that was put on him, even though he did not deserve it. Still, he bore everything silently. Actually, if you read Ayodhya Kanda, one would know. Everybody doubted the credibility of Bharata, including a hunter like Guha, a Nishada Raja as Guha. He also came and asked, I hope that you do not have enemy feelings towards Ramachandra. When he expressed his opinion like that to Bharata, then Bharata replied back saying that I hope that there will never be a day when a brother has such feelings for his another brother. So that's how Bharata replied. So that's how he is named Vibhakti iti Bharataha. Then Shatrugna, Nitya Shatrugna. So Shatrugna, if you see Ramayana, he never was involved in any kind of war. Of course in Uttara Ramayana he did some wars, but he did not fight in Lanka. He never killed many enemies or things like that. But he is Shatrugna because he killed the inner enemies, the enemies who live within us. Shatrugna, Nitya Shatrugna. So that is why he is called Shatrugna. Lakshmana was a Bhagavat Paratantriya. That means he was a servant of the Bhagavan himself. Whereas Shatrugna is a Bhagavata Paratantriya. He is a servant of the devotee of the Lord. He is a servant to Bharata. That's why in Ramayana, Shatrugna's character is a glorious character, which is an example for all of us who are aspiring in this devotional path to go to Lord Ramachandra or to obtain Krishna as our dear child in the house. Those who are aspiring for such things, for them, servant of the devotee is the most important part. That's what Shatrugna exemplifies in Ramayana. So the children were brought up in very good education and all kinds of whatever archery, sonic archery, you name it, in Dhanurveda. They were taught with all that. And they were also taught the Vedas and their ancillaries, grammar, everything. They were like Panditas. And when they were educated, Dasaratha was very happy with his children because they were learning very quick and they were all respectful kids. They know how to respect elders. They know how to spend money. They knew, everything. They are like dexterous persons in every field, in each and every field. So Dasaratha was very happy. And he was discussing about the matrimonial affairs of his children with his ministers one day. At that time, a great and renowned soul, namely Vishwamitra, arrived at the gates of Ayodhya. And then he spoke to the gatekeepers that, my dear child, please go and inform your king Dasaratha that Vishwamitra has arrived here, the son of Kushi. I mean, the one who belongs to the dynasty of Kushi. That's why he is called Kaushika. I have come here, so inform it to your king. And when Vishwamitra asked such a request, then the doorkeepers trembled upon the arrival of Vishwamitra, because he is such a great saint and sage, he is a Brahmarshi. So they were trembling in fear. They say, there is a famous saying in Telugu that Urakararu Mahatmulu Varu ala Adhamula Inlaku Vachuta Yellan Karanu Mangalamu Miraka Subhamu Maku Nijamu Mahatma. That means the Mahatmas won't come to your house without a proper reason. But if they come, that means it is for a good reason and it's for your own benefit. So they were wondering what this reason could be. And they were a little scared, because Vishwamitra is such a great saint that his mere presence would cause anybody to tremble. In front of elders we always tremble. So Vishwamitra commands such respect from anybody. So when he said that, the doorkeepers rushed to the court of Dasaratha. While he was discussing the matrimonial affairs, they went and announced that sage, my dear Lord Dasaratha, sage Vishwamitra has arrived. Sage Vishwamitra has arrived at the gates of Ayodhya. He is requesting his presence in front of you. He is requesting for your time to talk with you. Immediately Dasaratha was very pleased. He stepped down from the throne and he told the ushers, needless to say, please bring him in. And then the ushers, they rushed forward and then they brought Vishwamitra into the court of Dasaratha. First Dasaratha offered him water, arghya, and then he gave him a seat, and then he started to speak. First he addressed, my dear Bhagavan, Brahman, O Vishwamitra, your arrival here is like a pilgrimage. The whole most holy place itself has come here into my court. It's not like me going to a pilgrimage, but the holy place itself have come to my place. I feel like that. And he also says, I'm feeling so happy, just like a person who is thirsty for a long, long time, if he gets water, how he will feel. I have similar feelings. And also, a person who did not have sons for a long time, and how would he feel when he begets a worthy son through his deserving wife? Similar is my feeling at heart today. And for what reason have you come today here, my dear Bhagavan? Please tell me, that which task you are desiring I shall do without a question. That is, that's what I would like to offer at your feet today. So saying, Dasaratha addressed Vishwamitra. Then Vishwamitra replied to Dasaratha, saying that, my dear Dasaratha, how else can a king like you, or a person born in Ikshvaku dynasty, can speak? In what other way can he speak other than this? I am very, very pleased with your reply. And then Vishwamitra addressed Dasaratha, saying that, my dear Dasaratha, I am conducting a great sacrifice for the benefit of mankind in my Siddhasrama. But there are two demons, namely Maricha and Subahu. They are the descendants of Sunda and Upasunda. They are causing the sacrifices, interruption to the sacrifices. At the end of the sacrifice, they are coming and pouring down torrents of flesh and blood, unclean flesh and blood, into the altars of fire, which is what is pestering me. And I cannot curse them, because I have taken a vow before the sacrifice, and I cannot curse them. So, I need your son, Ramachandra, who has jet black hair, which is like the feathers of a crow. See, here one might wonder, why did Valmiki compare Rama's hair with the feathers of a crow? But, some things for which they are known, like a crow's feathers are known for its blackish color, and nothing else in the world is as black as a crow's feather. So, usually people are happy when your hair is compared, when you say, oh, your hair still is black, it's not grayed out. So, black is the good attribute for hair. So, it should be compared with such thing that is an embodiment of, such attribute. So, that's why Vishwamitra compared, I want your son Ramachandra to come with me, who has jet black hair, to come and kill these demons and help me in my yajna. And Dasaratha was immediately stupefied at the request of Vishwamitra. After a long, long time, after 60,000 years, I bore a son. I did a yajna, Aswamedha yaga, and then I got this son. And my Rama is very, very handsome and beautiful, and I cannot live even a moment without him. Dasaratha is an embodiment of paternal love. Like a father's love, if you put it in a container, it takes the form of Dasaratha. Such is his love for his son. So Dasaratha, he said, I cannot bear the separation from my son. So he was stupefied, he was dumbfounded. Then he started to reply slowly. First, now he gave the offer that I will do anything. Now how can he take back his word? Now he is saying that, Unashorasha varshone Ramo Rajiva Lochane. My son is not even 16 years old. And his eyes are like lotus flowers. Why did he compare it with lotus flowers? Lotus flowers, they close at the evening, as in when the sun sets, lotus flowers close. Similarly, my son's eyes, they will close as and when it gets dark. He sleeps. He is not even 16 years old. He is so young. And these Rakshasas, they only come during the night. How can he fight when he sleeps? So he cannot. So I will come and fight. I will come with the Akshauhini of soldiers, of Akshauhini of an army. One pankti is, one chariot, something like 10 chariots or 10 elephants and so many horses. Similarly, one Akshauhini of army consists of 21,870 chariots, something like that, and then 3 times of it is the elephants, and then the same number of chariots is the elephants, and then 3 times of it is cavalry, and 4 times of it foot soldiers, something like that, and it makes an Akshauhini of army. How many Akshauhinis participated in the Kurukshetra war? Does anybody know? 18 Akshauhinis. 11 on the Kauravas side, 7 on the Pandavas side. So similarly, Dasaratha says, I will come with an Akshauhini of army, and then I will kill those descendants of death. He compared them to death god, because Maricha and Subahu are death personified. They are so powerful Rakshasas. He said, I will come and kill them. They are the descendants of Sunda and Upasunda. So I will come. Then Vishwamitra's anger was growing slowly. Then he said, how can you swerve away from your word, my dear Dasaratha? Then Dasaratha insisted, no, my son is younger, I cannot, I will come. The more defensive stance that Dasaratha took, it was like pouring clarified butter into the fire. His requests were like pouring clarified butter into the anger of Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra got more ferocious. But he is a Brahmarshi now, he cannot curse Dasaratha. So he said, long you may live with your kith and kin upon being swerved away from the path of Dharma, my dear Dasaratha. God bless you, I am leaving. As I will follow the same way that in which I came, I will go away in the same way. Then Vasishtha intervened and he said, Dasaratha, child, what are you doing? Here comes a great sage, Yeshaha Vigrahavan Dharmaha. He is the embodiment of virtue. Yeshaha Viryavatam Varaha. He says, he is the embodiment of virtue, and there is matchless in his strength. Yeshaha Vidyadikaha Loke, and matchless, peerless in his knowledge. And what else? Tapasascha Parayanam. and and flawless in his penance. He's such a great sage. Nobody knows about him. I know about him because Vasishtha in that court was the only Brahmarshi. When you belong to a fraternity, only you would understand. The other person belonging to that fraternity. Only a nuclear scientist will understand something stated by another nuclear scientist, not us. Right? So, similarly, Brahmarshi said, Vasishtha told him that Yeshaha Vigrahavan Dharmaha, Yeshaha Viryavatam Varaha, Yeshaha Vidyadike Loke. What a nice word. Yeshaha Vidyadike Loke. Peerless in his education and knowledge. Tapasascha Parayanam. Flawless in his penance. Send your children with Vishwamitra. He has many weapons. Once upon a time, there was a Prajapati. Prabhu, do you know his name? No, not Daksha. Kushashrava. Yeah, if I remember, I will correct it if it is wrong next time. Kushashra Prajapati, and he had two wives, Jaya and Suprabha. Somehow I remember their names, but not his name. And then they had 100 children. Each son is an embodiment of a weapon. So 100 weapons, divine missiles, were born as children to this Prajapati. And Shiva took those missiles and then gave it to Vishwamitra. And he possesses all these divine weapons. Not only these, he can manufacture weapons of his own. So even in those days, they used to manufacture weapons, so we don't know. So Vishwamitra had special weapons. He can create universe. Forget about weapons. He can create a whole separate new universe. So he said, Vishwamitra has so many such divine attributes and qualities. You send your children with him. Do you think he cannot protect the yajna himself? He is so powerful. But why did he come here? He wants to get that name and fame for your son. He is fetching the glory for your son. Under his shadow, Rama would grow as a resplendent sun in this universe, and his glory would shine forever in the future. Send him with Vishwamitra. Then when he heard about all these weapons, missiles and all these great things, Dasaratha was convinced, under Vishwamitra my sons would be safe. So then he himself went inside and fetched Ramachandra. Valmiki clearly mentions that Dasaratha himself went inside and fetched Ramachandra. So he fetched Ramachandra. First Kausalya, she did not even say a word. She did not say no. Immediately she gave her good blessing. She kissed him on his forehead. She blessed him with all the Swasti Vachakas. They have a farewell ritual in olden days. Like they say all good things. May good betide you. All the prosperities on this earth be with you. You will get these things. That like that they will have a prayer. If you remember in our olden days, the grandmas, they used to do all these things. Nowadays it's not, it's not so common. So they said all these good things to Ramachandra, and then after the mother blessed him, Dasaratha fetched him, and then along with him, Lakshmana is a shadow. Needless to say that Lakshmana also came. So he was with Ramachandra. They both came, and Dasaratha gave his sons to Vishwamitra. What a wonderful sight it is. Ramachandra, for whom the entire universe, the sages and all the demigods, whatever you say, and all the great souls are trying to get a glimpse of this personality, the two-handed form of Ramachandra. But here we see two persons fighting, I want him, I want him. And the Supreme Personality himself is not saying anything. He's like an object. Okay, if he hands me over, I will go with him. He is standing stupid, just like that without saying anything. Such is the devotion of Dasaratha and Vishwamitra. That's why Ramachandra, even though he is the Supreme Personality, he was just allowing his devotees fight over him, that who will get him. And then when Dasaratha gave Ramachandra to Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra took the two children, and then the two children followed Vishwamitra. As and when they followed, they started following, the Devadundubis started to, make sound. Dundubi is a kind of drum in those days. Devadundubi is a divine drum. So there was Devadundubis, the drum beats were heard, and then not only that, the blowing of conches and other kinds of divine instruments were also heard at that time, and flowers were showered from the heavens. And these divine music of these instruments mixed with the instruments of Ayodhya. In Ayodhya also people were blaring, trumpets, conches, and these dundubis. And then there was a shower of flowers. So this episode is very important. In Ramayana, on very few occasions, the flower of shower took place. The shower of flowers. This was one instance. Sita Rama Kalyanam, it took place. And then again when Ravana was killed, it took place. Very few occasions. So this is a very prominent, important situation in Ramayana. When they two followed Vishwamitra, they had two quivers. Rama and Lakshmana were wearing two quivers. One on this side, one on this side. And then they had a bow in hand. And then they were wearing gloves. Even in those days there were gloves. It is clearly mentioned. And it was made of this dragon lizard skin. These dragon lizards, komodos, and huge. They have similar hands like human beings. 5 fingers. So I think they made with those things in those days. For grip. One may say, isn't it violent? Killing animals and all that. They used to make it with dead animals, not like now. And in those days, sometimes the only check for controlling wild animals is to kill them. When they attack villages and things like that. Some of the warriors. That's the way to check. Nowadays, they don't have a habitat to live, so we don't need any kind of checks like that. Okay. Since it's a time, we bring up to you one small point. People who are eating meat would think, how am I, troubling this world just by eating meat? I'm just eating meat. They are killing animals. We are getting it. But it takes. Human beings are good converters of protein, grain into protein, whereas animals are not. So they consume lot of grain to produce, 1 pound of meat. So you are depriving all these countries from grain, you are bringing it and then feeding it to these 6 billion or more than 6 billion animals, that are farmed in the corporate farms, and you are spending more grain on them. Imagine, to feed more than 6 billion people, they are raising more than 6 billion animals, and then that grain is fed to them to produce meat. So 6 more billion people can eat that grain, right? So nobody would be in a hungry state if we stop animal farming right now. And imagine how much water is being supplied to them and how much pollution. So think of it. So those who are meat eaters, please make an attempt to stop it. Okay, anyway, coming back into the story. So Rama and Lakshmana followed Dasaratha, Vishwamitra, and their quivers, these quivers that they were having, they looked as if, a 3-hooded serpents are following Vishwamitra, because it looked as if 3 heads were there. And also they were following like the Ashwini twin gods, and then they were following also like Skanda and Vishaka, who are the sons of Shiva. How they followed Shiva, similarly these two are following Vishwamitra. This is the epithets and comparisons that Valmiki gave in his Ramayana. So beautifully he portrays the picture. And then when they followed for a distance of a yojana, which is around 12 miles, until then Vishwamitra did not turn back. Nor these children asked him, where are we going? What is our destiny? They also did not ask. They just followed Vishwamitra, and then after a yojana, Vishwamitra turned back and asked them. And he saw, these royal children, they have not uttered a word, they just followed me for such a long distance. So the Guru was pleased. Then on the banks of Sarayu, at this point, Valmiki doesn't mention whether they were going in the eastern direction or western direction. So they just reached the southern banks of Sarayu. But in the future we will see, since they were going in the direction of the confluence of the rivers of Ganga and Sarayu, that means they are going in the eastern direction. So they went in the eastern direction. At the banks of river Sarayu, Vishwamitra turned back and he saw Rama and Lakshmana. Then he was pleased. Then he looked at Ramachandra and said, my dear boy, today I will teach you 2 divine books called Bala and Atibala. With this, you will never feel hungry at any time. not even thirsty. And with this knowledge, no Rakshasa can kill you even during night times when you are sleeping. And with this knowledge, your glory will never be diminished. You will achieve no fatigue. You will always be alacritic, enthusiastic, and you will be in vigor. So I will teach you these two. Please learn them. Bala and Atibala Upanishads are there, and if one is interested, they can read them also. Unlike modern days, where we think of breakfast and things like ours is all material things. So in those days, they figured out a way to derive strength from the sound energy, so which is the Upanishads, Bala and Atibala Upanishad. So when Vishwamitra imparted the knowledge to Ramachandra, Lakshmana also learned along with Ramachandra. Some people understand that Rama taught it to Lakshmana, but some people understand that Vishwamitra, needless to say, when he teaches it to Rama, he teaches it to Lakshmana also. So when Bala and Atibala Upanishads were taught to Ramachandra, and then at that place it became evening by that time, so they wanted to rest. So Vishwamitra fetched some kusha grass, darbha, and then he spread it over. He made a mat, and he asked the boys, "Please sleep on this." See, Vishwamitra did not ask Rama and Lakshmana to go and fetch the dry grass for themselves, because he's a guru. When two young children follow you, it's the duty of the guru to teach them in the beginning. Since they were royal children, they did not know by the time to have a grass mat and sleep on it. So Vishwamitra showed by example. He fetched everything, he spread it over, and then he asked them to sleep, and he also slept. And looking at Vishwamitra, Ramachandra and Lakshmana, they also slept on darbha, that darbhasana. Before this, I forgot to mention one thing. There is a lot of discussion on the age of Ramachandra at this point. How old is he? So Dasaratha said, "Unasodasha varsho me Ramo Rajiva Lochane." He is not even 16 years old by that time. That's why he is not eligible to wage a war. A Kshatriya, only when he is 16 years old, he can wage a war. That is the proposal of Dasaratha, saying that, my son cannot. But Vishwamitra said, "Aham Vedmi," that I know who Ramachandra is. Aham Vedmi, I know him. I know who Ramachandra is, you don't know. So he is beyond this race of being Kshatriya or Brahmana. He is beyond all these things. So he can wage a war. Sita confirms Rama's age when Ravana comes to her in Panchavati. Then she says, "My husband, when he left Ayodhya, he was 25 years old and I was 18 years old." One may say, how can we trust Sita? No lady tells her correct age. She is not a modern lady. So it is true that Sita was 18 years old and Ramachandra was 25 years old. When he got married, he was 12 years, and then thereafter they spent 12 years in Ayodhya, 24, and then the next year, they started going out. So anyway, so Rama was 12 years old at this time. Even though Dasaratha did not mention that he was 12 years, but from our calculations, some research, we conclude that Rama was 12 years at this point. Unashodash varshome Ramo Rajiva Lochane. So and then they both slept on the mat that night. And then early morning, Ramachandra did not wake up because he was tired walking 12 miles. It's a long distance, even to Ramachandra's standards. So he slept, and then Vishwamitra woke him up. And this prayer is a celebrated verse, celebrated prayer, even to this day. In all the South Indian temples, if not in all the temples of all over the world, this is sung early in the morning. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narasardhula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. Vishwamitra says, Kausalya Supraja Rama, O beloved son of Kausalya, one who is a very lucky woman in all this entire universe. we don't see that Devaki bore Krishna in her stomach. I am not sure. Because Vishnu appeared that night and he said, I will be born as your son, right? And so we are not sure. But Rama lived in the womb of Kausalya for 10 months. Or maybe 12 months, I don't know. But not for 9 months. So, he was saying, oh beloved son of Kausalya, she is very lucky. Why did he say Kausalya, not Dasaratha? Whenever you mention the name of Rama, you say Dasarathi, oh son of Dasaratha. But here only Vishwamitra tells you are the son of Kausalya because she did not put any hindrance, for Ramachandra to go with Vishwamitra. So he is pleased with Kausalya. Whereas Dasaratha, he obstructed so many times. No, I can't send my son. But Kausalya, immediately she sent. Oh, your Guru Vishwamitra is great. So she trusted him. So Vishwamitra, here he addresses Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate. It has been already, sun is rising. Please wake up. Uttishta, wake up. Narasardhula, O tiger among men. Uttishta Narasardhula, Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. Duty is more important. So get up. Then Ramachandra got up. Then they did the Gayatri Mantra. This Gayatri Mantra, we had a discussion earlier too. Lot of people put Gayatri means they put a some deity similar to Durga, with 5 hands on a tiger or something, and then they try to worship. But these people, they don't know the perfect knowledge. Gayatri Mantra was set to meter by Vishwamitra. He is the seer for Gayatri Mantra. For each mantra there is a seer, right? But for Gayatri Mantra, Vishwamitra is the seer. Vishwamitra sung this Gayatri Mantra keeping Ramachandra in view. Even that says, one who is making the sun to shine. Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. So Vishwamitra, was a seer to Gayatri Mantra and he set it to meter keeping Ramachandra in view. So whenever you do Gayatri, it is Ramachandra for whom you are worshipping. So lot of legends, stories, and new cultures, religions, are cooked up, and they don't last long. They would float around for a while and then they would go away. They are just like bubbles on an ocean. So, but when you read Ramayana, you would get the perfect knowledge of what it is, how Ramayana happened, what Ramayana is, what culture was it in Treta Yuga. And listening to the verses of Ramayana is important because the sound, the three-dimensional space of Treta Yuga is preserved in the sound vibration of these verses of Valmiki. So whenever you hear the verse from a Valmiki Maharshi sloka, you would get at least a glimpse of what Treta Yuga is. So that's why it is very important to read Valmiki Ramayana and hear at least one verse a day. So when he said, Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate, Uttishta Narasardhula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. Rama woke up. And then he opened his lotus-like eyes. And then he saw this word. And then Lakshmana woke up. They both offered water. And then they did the Gayatri hymn. And then it says Paramam Mantra Japam. Param Mantra Japam. They did not say Gayatri in Valmiki Ramayana. And they say, and so they did whatever was the ritual at that time, in the early morning, and then they woke up, they followed the sage again. And then they reached an ashrama called Kamashrama. It was a hermitage. Rama saw this hermitage and he asked, my dear sir, what is this hermitage? I would like to know. It is very auspicious. It's looking very auspicious. What is this hermitage? Then Vishwamitra replied, my dear child, this hermitage once belonged to Shiva. He was doing a great penance here. And then he got married in the same ashrama. But then Manmada Kandarpa, or Ananga, one without a body. Manmada was in his body at that time. He had a body. He once had a body. So that Manmada criticized Shiva. Because he thought, I made Shiva to love, Parvati, or, he was a little proud. And then Shiva with his third eye burned Manmada and made him, bodiless. So all the body of Manmada burned down and then it fell down at this place. And that's why, since this place bears the body of Manmada, it is called Angadesa. That's how Angadesa got its name. For those of you who are wondering why it is called Angadesa. That's how this place is called Angadesa. And since Shiva, who is Kameshwara, one who has destroyed Kama, one who has defeated Kama, Manmada is also called Kama. One who has destroyed Kama, this ashrama is called Kama Ashrama, hermitage of Kama. So here resides the followers of that noble soul Shiva. So please, we'll stay here for this night and then we'll proceed towards our destiny tomorrow. And then all the sages of Kama Ashrama, they came forward and then received. It is a proper culture even to this day. When a famous personality arrives in the town, the people belonging to that fraternity, they go and welcome him, right? So they all came forward and they heard about Vishwamitra. They came forward and then welcomed Ramachandra and Lakshmana. Because of Vishwamitra, they got the darshan of Rama and Lakshmana. They bought them. They gave prasadam and everything. One might wonder, what can they feed in a forest? They don't have anything. Trust me, you can cook very delicious food without anything. The simpler the prasadam is, the tastier it is. When we invite devotees to the house and feed them simple khichdi or something, pongal, anything, they say, this is the most tastiest prasadam I have ever had. Devotees say that. When we invite a material friend, you would say, I didn't have that masala, this, that. So, and those of you who are cooking with onions and garlic, if you are interested to know how to cook without onions and garlic, we can take a class on that too. And we can cook much more tastier food without onion and garlic. If you put onion, the whole apartment smells like onion, right? So, and your even dress, the jacket, the jetkins, you smell like an onion. So you don't want to do that, without onion, but still you can cook good food. And it becomes much more easier. With onion, it takes 2 hours to make a curry. Without it, it's very easy. So, anyway, so the prasadam, they served food and water and everything in that ashrama. And that night, the children slept with Vishwamitra in that ashrama. And Vishwamitra told them delightful stories. So many stories. It is written in Valmiki Ramayana that Vishwamitra told them many stories. And then both the children enjoyed it. Rama himself enjoyed the stories. That's why we are doing the storytelling. So, they both slept. Actually, the other sages started to praise Vishwamitra and his dynasty. They said, there once upon a time was Kushi. He had 4 sons. Kushambi, Kushanaba, Artharajas and Vasu. And Kushambi built Kaushambi, a city called Kaushambi. And Kushanaba built a city called Mahayoga. And Artharajas built a city called Dharmaranya. And Vasu built a city called Girivraja, which is Rajgir. In present day Rajgir is called Girivraja. So these are the 4 sons of Kushi, and such great is the dynasty of Vishwamitra. So they were praising, and when Vishwamitra heard that, he started telling the story of his lineage. He said, yes, and Kushanaba, who is the second son of Kushi, had 100 daughters from a celestial nymph called Gritachi. Gritachi was an Apsarasa, so he had 100 daughters through her, and they were all very beautiful. But once Vayu, the wind god, saw all his 100 daughters and he was attracted to them and he asked them to marry him. And they refused, they promptly denied that we will marry that person whom our father asks us to marry. Our father is very veritable, truthful. We will do only that. But then Vayu got angered and he entered their limbs and then he disfigured them. So they became, a little bent and, disfigured. So they were all unhappy. They went to their father's court. And then Kushanaba told them that, my dear children, forgiveness is a very divine quality, and you have forgiven, why that is good. Whatever happened, so happened. Leave it. And he started searching for a eligible bachelor, so that he can marry his children to him. Then here Vishwamitra tells the story of Brahmadatta. There was a great sage called Chuli. In our last Ramayana recital, I pronounced him as Kuli, because I didn't have the Telugu book or any Sanskrit book that had the Devanagari lipi. So I was reading an English version, which were, even the verses were written in English. So I would correct it. It's Chuli, a sage called Chuli. He was very great. And then a celestial nymph, Somada, who was the daughter of I forgot her name, but a celestial nymph called Somada was serving him. And then when Chuli was leaving this abode to go to the abode of the god, then Somada asked him that I want to have a son from you. Please bless me with a son. Then Chuli blessed her with a divine son. He was like a Manasaputra. And he gave him to her. His name was Brahmadatta. And Brahmadatta, when he came and when he touched all these 100 daughters, they became beautiful again. And Somada was very happy with his son Brahmadatta, and she was also happy with Kushanaba for giving such beautiful daughter-in-laws. And then she praised him. And after this marriage, Kushanaba wanted to have a son. So then he performed Putrakameshti. Then his father Kushi appeared in the yajna and he blessed him with a son. He said, you will have a son and his name will be Gadi. And Kushanaba had a son called Gadi. And Vishwamitra says, I am son of that glorious Gadi. That's why I am called Gadheya. Vishwamitra is also called Gadheya. So I am the son of Gadi. This is the story of my dynasty. And when the other sages, when they started to praise Vishwamitra, immediately Vishwamitra yawned and then he slept. That is what great men do, when others praise, he's doing the same comment as, and then they sleep. And then he slept. And Rama was surprised for 1 second. Why is he sleeping? Others are talking, he's sleeping. And then Rama also, he also yawned and he slept. And they all slept that night. And they woke up in the morning, again early. And all the sages in Kamasrama, they bought a boat to cross Ganga, because now they are at the northern banks of Ganga. So they bought a boat and gave it to Vishwamitra. It's a very beautifully decorated boat, and they gave it to him. They gave it to Vishwamitra and asked him, please take the children in this boat and proceed forward. Then Vishwamitra and Rama, Lakshmana, they got into the boat. And then they went, it was going downstream the river. There is no mentioning of a boatman here at this point. So I would assume the boat would have taken its course on its own in the torrents of the river. So it proceeded downstream. And at the confluence of Sarayu and Ganga, there was a huge sound because of two rivers mixing up. And Rama questioned, what is that great sound that I am hearing? Valmiki vividly describes, the serene nature in that environment. And when Rama hears that sound, he tells Vishwamitra, what is that sound? And Vishwamitra replies, it is the confluence of the rivers Sarayu and Ganga. And he says Ganga is called Tripadaga because it travels in 3 places, heavens, earth, and then to the Netherlands also. Not the Netherlands in Europe, and then he says, Vishwamitra says, Sarayu, it has taken birth in a lake called Manasa Sarovar, which has arisen from the mind of Brahma. That is why it's called Manasa Sarovar. So Sarayu has taken its birth from Manasa Sarovar. Since its birth, its origination point is a Saras, it is called Sarayu. And then it traverses, downstream, and then it touches your Ayodhya city too, my dear child, and then it proceeds forward. And then Rama and Lakshmana and Vishwamitra proceed forward, and then they see a huge forest full of Bilva, Ashwakarna, Patala, Badari, and several kinds of trees. Ramayana can be studied in a botanical perspective also. I have been telling this even in our last recital. Ramayana has so many trees that are mentioned that you don't know at this point. So I will start making a note from now on. You can actually do a research on Ramayana from a botanical perspective. If any botany people are here, they will be interested. So Ramayana is very helpful in preaching. It has something for every department. For botany, if people who are interested in Rakshasas, they have many Rakshasas. So like that, so they saw a huge forest with many trees, Bilva, Ashwakarna, Patala, Badari, and Arjuna trees. And Rama asked, what is this forest? It's dilapidated, it looks ghastly. No animals are here, and no people are here. What is this place? Then Vishwamitra tells him from the beginning, my dear child, this place once, here there were two kingdoms called Malada and Karusha. There were two kingdoms, flourished with a lot of people, but now they are dilapidated because of a Rakshasa called Tataka. The story of this place, Malada and Karusha, is once upon a time Indra killed Vritrasura. Since Vritrasura was a Brahmana, Indra was affected with hunger and the humanly attributes, like we eat and then we pass, right? So the same qualities got to Indra. So he was worried. Who is Vritrasura? And if you would like to study his story, I will narrate it in a brief way. It is written in Bhagavatam. Vritrasura was a demon. He was the son of sage Twashta. Twashta had a son called Visarupa. Visarupa, while performing penances, yajnas, he used to offer oblations to gods and also to demons, because he was related to both of them. Demons were from his mother's side, and then the demigods from his father's side, so he used to offer oblations to both of them. Indra was a little perturbed with this, so he killed Vritrasura. And at that time, Visarupa was also a Brahmana. So Indra got again, the sins. But then at that time, the earth accepted, water accepted, the trees accepted, so he gave boons to the earth, all these elements that have accepted his sins. For earth, he said, if you dig a hole in earth, it will automatically fill by itself. Isn't it true? It happens, right? Withering of sand. And then you cut trees, if you cut branches, they will grow automatically. If you cut a human hand, it won't grow. But trees will grow. But the trees would grow, right? So he gave a boon to the trees. And then he gave a boon to water, that it will self-purify itself. I know, for those who are civil engineers, they study these rivers, they self-purify themselves. As I said, there is a topic for every department. So rivers self-purify themselves. Like for example, if a city puts its drain here, 100 miles downstream, it will be pure again. It's an aerobic process or whatever it is, So like that, these boons were offered to these places by Indra. And then again in future, Twashta got angry because Indra killed his son Visarupa. So he did a penance and then got another son called Vritrasura. And this Vritrasura cannot be killed with any weapon, either which is hard, which is soft, which is that, which is this, he cannot be killed with anything. Then Indra went to Lord Vishnu. It is written in very detailed way in Bhagavatam. Then Lord Vishnu suggests him that go to a sage called Dadiji and ask him for his body. His body is very powerful. And Vishwakarma will make a weapon from his bones. He will make a Vajrayuda. And then with that Vajrayuda you can kill Vritrasura. And even the Vajrayuda is hard, right? You cannot kill Vritrasura. Then how did Indra kill him? So Vritrasura himself tells Indra, because Vritrasura was a noble demon, it's a, what do you call it, oxymoron or whatever. But Vritrasura was a noble demon. He was good. Can you take them? Good. Yeah. So Vritrasura was a noble demon. He tells him that, use the foam and then put it on your Vajrayuda, use the foam from the water, whatever it is, and then kill me. So with that he killed him. When he killed Vritrasura, since he was a Brahmana, he got these two sins, like Malada and Karusha, he gets hungry and then he has to pass stool, whatever. Then, when Indra was purified at this place by the demigods, they poured water on Indra and then cleansed him of his sins. And then these two places, Malada and Karusha, accepted his sins. And then Indra blessed these places to be very rich. And they were rich. And they were very prosperous. But this Tataka, she's a demon. She came and inhabited this place and drew away all the people. And she made these places dilapidated. Then Rama asked, how come a female has such a strength? Tell me the story of this Tataka. Then Vishwamitra started to explain. This Tataka was once a Yakshini. She was born to a Yaksha called Suketu. Suketu did a long penance to Brahma for achieving a son. But Brahma did not bestow him with a son, but he bestowed him with a lady called Tataka. She was a very, very beautiful woman, Tataka. But as she grew up, she got 1,000 elephant strength. She was so strong. She was beautiful yet so strong. And then Suketu got her married to a person called Sunda. Sunda was a Rakshasa, I think. Or maybe not a Rakshasa, he was cursed later to be a Rakshasa. Sunda. And when she was married to Sunda, they both were against Agastya. They did some mischief and Agastya cursed Sunda. And Agastya cursed Maricha. They both had a son called Maricha. Cursed Maricha to be a Rakshasa. So when Maricha became Rakshasa, Sunda got angry, or he might have attacked Agastya, and then Agastya burned him to ashes. And that's how Tataka developed enmity with Agastya. Since this place was inhabited by Agastya once upon a time, she started destroying this place, since she cannot do anything to Agastya, because Agastya is a very powerful sage. You cannot do anything to him. So Tataka started to destroy this forest. Actually she also attacked Agastya. Then he cursed her that you become a man-eating demon. And then anger results in this way that Tataka became a demon, and she started troubling these two Janapadas, Malada and Karusha. Then that's how this place became like this. So my dear Rama, this Tataka is very powerful, I want you to kill her. Then Rama proposes that she is a female demon, I cannot, how can I kill a female? Then Vishwamitra tells him that for the benefit of mankind, your kingdom, people, a king has to do such things. He has to take up. Once upon a time, Vishnu killed a lady called Mandara. She was the daughter of Virochana. Virochana is the grandson of Prahlada. So many names in Ramayana. Don't get confused. Follow the story. So Vishnu killed Mandara once upon a time. And Indra also killed another lady, when she was trying to destroy demigods. So it is not a sin. When time requires, you have to kill. So for the people's sake, you have to do this. Then Rama said that Piturvachana Nirdeshat, Piturvachana Gauravat, Vachanam Kaushikasya iti Kartavyam Avishankayaha. He said, because my father has ordered me, and because in respect of my father's words, and those words are to follow you, whatever you say, we have to follow it without any question. So I would do it. So Rama said that I would do it. And Go-Brahmana Hitarthaya, he says, for the benefit of cows and Brahmanas, I would do this. Imagine he's a 12-year-old boy and he's speaking like this, like a mature, young adult, That's why it is said, Kulochita matihi kshatram dharmam bahumanyate manyate paraya kirtya mahatsvarga phalam tataha. One of the Rama's qualities, Kulochita matihi, he knows who he is. Kshatram dharmam bahumanyate. He knows that he is a Kshatriya and he knows what to do, and he will do what is necessary. And he thinks that by doing so, manyate paraya kirtya mahatsvarga phalam tataha. By doing so, he will attain great worlds. That is what Rama believes. He is a Kshatriya, he has to follow. So he has that understanding. So here he follows what Vishwamitra says. Then this Tataka, who is the daughter of Sunda, no, wife of Sunda and daughter of Suketu, started, she was dwelling in this forest, and then Rama took the bow and then he twanged, the bowstring. And on hearing the twang of the bow, even Tataka got alerted. Might be she was busy, cooking some meat or something, and then as and when she heard the sound, she got startled. Where from this sound is coming? Who is that who has entered my forest? And then she started rushing towards Rama and Lakshmana. She started with a hail of stones. There was a storm of stones. She started to throw all the stones towards Rama and Lakshmana. She started rushing towards Rama and Lakshmana. Then Vishwamitra did a hunkara, said and then she was sent back some miles away just by that sound. We see that even now, right? When children are fighting, you say, somebody will get back. Similarly, Vishwamitra is trying to protect his children, Rama and Lakshmana. Then Tataka, she went back again, she started to come forward and then started to throw stones at Rama. At that time, Ramachandra looked at Lakshmana and said, I do not wish to kill a demoness, a female, especially Tataka is a lady. So first I would make her, I would cut off the locomotion, like, I would cut off her limbs or something and then make her incapable of doing all these things so that she would, be there instead of killing her. So she started, he started with a shower of arrows and then attacked all the stones and then later on tried to attack Tataka. And this fight was going on. Then Valmiki said, Vishwamitra said to Ramachandra, my dear child, enough of your compassion towards this Tataka. It is getting, darker. When it gets darker, Tataka, doubles her strength. So it is time and apt for you now to kill her. Then Ramachandra, he looked at Lakshmana and then he took an arrow. Lakshmana actually cut off her ears and nose before this. And then Rama took an arrow and then he shot the arrow at her chest. Using Sabdavedi, because Tataka already became invisible by that time. And then she started throwing from here and there without being invisible. So then he used the Shabdavedi. This is why I said Dasaratha could have been a teacher of Ramachandra, because Dasaratha knows Shabdavedi. For those of you who don't know Shabdavedi, if you hear a sound and depending from where the sound is coming, you can hit the target from here. So in those days they have all these technology. Now they have like heat radars and things like that, right? They also have all these things. They are no less than modern technology. I am not making this up. I mean, if you read Ramayana, you will understand. Before killing Tataka, I would like to dwell on this. Once I was discussing with Taraka Prabhu. His name rhymes with Tataka, but it's Taraka Prabhu. I was talking to him, and he said, isn't it amazing? They even have this abort operations. And he said, like a withdrawal of the weapons, Unless you have a weapon, why do you think of withdrawing it, right? Even in modern days, after the Nazis, invented these V2 rockets, missiles and all that, until 50 years later, they did not think of any abort missions. They just threw missiles but never aborting them. Then only they developed these aborting technologies and all that. But in those days, they already spoke about, withdrawals and all these things. So it means we were discussing, on this, one day. So if we were amazed, I was amazed when he brought this point to me. So these things are, real. It's not they are making up. They can convert a blade of grass into a Brahmastra. They can excite the atoms, and there are so many things. Especially people in technology and people of science, it is surprising to me that the scientific community always, when they read about Rama, they say, this is impossible, it cannot happen. But what the things that they are doing, was told by the world that it was impossible. I was reading the story about Oppenheimer and his troop of engineers when they were trying to engineer the atom bomb. They went and told, they were trying to, get some funding for this, that's how you get it, right? You sell your product and get the funding. So they went and told the military that we can make a weapon that would do the same destruction, similar to thousands and thousands of bombs, but it will be so much weight and so much size. You can carry it in a single plane and then you can drop it, but it would cast the same destruction, very similar to the destruction caused by thousands of bombs. Then the military said, you must be crazy, get out from here. But 2 years later, they manufactured the atom bomb. What was impossible 2 years before is a reality, 2 years later. So similarly, we don't know, there are so many things in this universe that we don't know. So Ramayana, gives a glimpse of such things. So here, Ramachandra used Shabdavedi and hit the chest of Tataka, and then she fell down like a broken hill, and she fell down, dropped dead. And with that, today we'll stop our pravachana with the killing of Tataka. It's a good thing. And then Vishwamitra, they proceed towards Siddhasrama, where Rama will kill Subahu. So we'll do that in the next week. And thereafter they will proceed to Mithila. And we have to talk about the story of Vishwamitra, which is huge. That is why Balakanda is called Balakanda. Not because it doesn't discuss any childhood pastimes of Ramachandra. Of course, he's 12 years old, he's a child now. but Balakanda is called Balakanda because sage Vishwamitra's story is described here in detail. So we'll talk about it next week. Mangalam Kosalendraya Mahaniya Gunatmane Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam. Hare Krishna. Any questions?